It has been a very long time since I've done a video involving Hannah Payne, mainly because the stories about her have been few and far in between. But of course, if you don't remember, she was the PC woman back in 2019 that killed that black man who was having a situation that was going on between him and another driver. And then here she comes trying to be super bitch, as I called her. That was actually the nickname I think I gave her. And she ended up killing this man. It's a black man, an older black man, and she ended up. It's a lot. The story is really kind of fuzzy for me because so much stuff has happened since then, and again, it wasn't that much that was coming out about it. But fast forward to now, she's currently about to stand trial finally. But now there's another issue, and it's not an issue on her end or on the court's end, but more so her attorney's end, whose name is Matthew Tucker. And I tried to find a picture of him, but I can't find one. In which this guy is just kind of shifty, kind of shady to me, and apparently to the judge as well. So the story goes that her attorney, Matthew Tucker, said that he had a stroke, quote unquote, but the judge wasn't buying that he actually had a stroke, and it actually came out that he really didn't actually have one. So who knows why he actually faked that he had a stroke, probably to delay that trial, to try to buy more time, because he probably knows that he can't get his client off. And now all this is doing is delaying the trial even more. Like, they're finally about to get this thing underway, and people are playing games. Like, this trial should have been happened. Now, we understand that it couldn't happen in 2020 because of the pandemic when it was originally set to go. But then a whole bunch of other stuff kept happening even post-pandemic or post-heightened pandemic. And here we are, and it looks like it's about to be another delay. And by the way, this is Hannah Payne in the picture, about a more recent one of her supposed to be there, and next to her empty chair in which her attorney was supposed to be sitting in. But let me go ahead and get into the article that was posted on lawandcrime.com November 14, 2022. A Georgia murder trial was delayed Monday under bizarre circumstances as the judge in the case did not believe that absent defense counsel actually had a stroke. Hannah Payne, age 24, was supposed to stand trial in Clayton County for allegedly murdering a man involved in a hit and run in 2019, but attorney Matthew Tucker did not show up to court, and Judge Shauna Rooks Malone was clearly not pleased with the lack of notice. There, however, is no indication that he had a stroke, the judge remarked from the bench, before offering some free advice to the defendant. I cannot go forward with the trial today because Ms. Payne is not represented, but what I will tell you, Ms. Payne, is you need to seriously seek new counsel. The judge found the attorney in contempt and said the state bar would be hearing about his behavior. He failed to follow the rules of the court and in notifying the court, the judge said. I am also going to file a grievance with the state bar of Georgia because of his behavior. Judge Malone also said this wasn't the first time she's seen something like this out of Tucker. She reminded Payne that she has a right to an attorney who will put on a zealous defense. This is not the first time I've had an issue with him failing to come on time, the judge said. He's doing you a disservice because you've been here. You have a right to counsel who's going to diligently represent and advocate on you zealously, and he has not been doing that. Whenever Hannah Payne does stand trial, she'll have to contend with allegations that she murdered Kenneth Herring, age 62, after he allegedly drove through a red light, collided with a semi-truck, and drove off after briefly stopping. Payne's defense strategy up to this point, under Tucker's leadership, has been to claim self-defense while attempt to perform a citizen's arrest. So that's basically what happened. I'm glad they put that in there because, like I said, I vaguely remember certain things, but I believe that Kenneth Herring was having like a medical episode, which is why that happened. Because it's not like he intentionally hit this person and then drove off. It wasn't an intentional hit and run, but he was having a medical emergency. And when she came about and was trying to be, like I called her, super bitch, she didn't know what the hell was going on, but she immediately pulled out her gun. And when Kenneth Herring wasn't responding in the way that she wanted to because she didn't know he was having a medical emergency, she shot and killed him. See, All of this would have been avoided if she would have just minded her business. The article goes on to say, it just seems like it's an unfortunate situation of a good Samaritan trying to stop a person on a hit and run. Tucker has said she was in fear of her life. She felt that she needed to pull that gun to defend herself. That's what her attorney, the one who had the alleged stroke, said. On that fateful May 7th, 2019, Payne followed Herring and blocked him in at an intersection before ordering him out of his car. Believing he was drunk, she called 911. He is drunk. I am not. I'm sorry, but I'm here to tell you, but I'm not going to follow him because he is going to cause an accident, Payne could be heard saying. Get out of the car. I said, get out of the car, she demanded. Before there was a struggle over her gun, he just pulled the trigger on the gun in my hand. The dispatcher had asked her not to chase after Herring. Why does that sound so familiar? Because that's the same thing that they told George Zimmerman when it came to Trayvon Martin. And now look at the parallels of these situations. A witness, a state corrections officer with medic training, saw the crash and spoke to Herring. Detective Keon Hayward has reportedly testified. Based on his training, this witness suggested that Herring was having a medical emergency, a diabetic shock, or something of that nature. For example, Herring was disoriented, displayed red-orange eyes, and had walked around a truck several times. Prosecutors have said all along that Payne was the aggressor. She's using deadly force. She wasn't faced with deadly force. District Attorney Tracy Graham Lawson said in 2019, you cannot claim self-defense and use deadly force unless you're not the initial aggressor. She is. Georgia repealed its citizen arrest law last year after 3 men murdered Ahmaud Arbery. Yeah. And notice that in both of these situations, who was the aggressor and who was the victim. PC individuals were the aggressor and black people were the victims. And both of them died at the hands of what they thought was them doing a good Samaritan act. Let's hope she gets the same fate as those 3 did. And I'm talking about the ones involved with Ahmaud Arbery. But we shall see. But she also has her being a woman on her side, so she may not get the same exact fate as they do, as she should though. But again, it goes back to her not minding her business. Now it's all coming back to me now about why she's on this trial. Because again, so much stuff has happened since then. And this is a story that they've been trying their best to keep out of the news cycle. And it's like, if you don't look for it, you won't find it. But thankfully, people in the Discord posted it, and that's how I'm able to do this video right now. But as for as for her trial, it seems like every time something gets ready to happen with the progression of this trial, something ends up happening in order for them to continuously delay it. They are probably tired of having to continuously delay this trial. And I wish that they would have went into a little bit more detail when the judge said that this isn't the first time she's had an issue dealing with this Matthew Tucker guy. Like, I wish she would have gave at least one example of a time where he has messed up a trial due to his behavior. Like, what did he do? Like, did he say anything? What happened in order for them to end up in the situation like they are kind of right now? Hopefully this does not swing or sway the decision or the outcome of what's supposed to be going on with this trial, as far as a decision of conviction or to not convict. Because she definitely needs to be found guilty and convicted and sentenced to a hefty sentence for the crime in which she committed. She could have went about this thing a whole nother way, but nope. She wanted to activate her super bitch powers and decide that she wanted to take out a black person that day. And unfortunately, Kenneth Herring was her prey. It could have been any black person, honestly, that at that time. It didn't have to be Kenneth Herring, but if they had it if it was in black skin, they were good in her book. That's all that needed to be. That's all that needed to happen. As for her attorney, this Matthew Tucker guy, thank you again for constantly or consistently helping to delay this trial. I can't even imagine what Kenneth Herring's family is feeling like right now. Like, they're probably like, oh my God, we've been doing this song and dance since 2019. And it's like, we are tired. We just want to get this trial underway. And it's probably not even going to be a long trial. It's probably not even going to be a long trial. This trial might actually probably last a couple of weeks at best. Something that could have been gone on, and people out here want to play games when it comes to this situation, and it should have been happened. Man, it's crazy. I don't know. I couldn't be in his family's shoes. I would be getting so agitated and so annoyed with what's going on. Now, it's a good thing that I went back and typed in, Hannah Payne into the search bar in a Google and everything like that, because literally within the last hour of me recording the first part of this video, before you get to this part right here, this came up, because this wasn't up before. And it says 43 minutes ago, so it shows us that was less than an hour ago. It says Clayton County judge chews out lawyer who missed court after suffering stroke on national television. Now, if you can see in this picture right here, that's Matthew Tucker right here. And in that picture, he is in a hospital bed. He does have a hospital like attire on, and he's wearing a mask. And on the right side of him is Judge Shanna Rooks. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this news clip, and I'm going to give my commentary on that.
New developments: an attorney who had a stroke and couldn't make it to court is speaking only to Channel 2 about the tongue lashing he received from the judge. The judge found the attorney in contempt of court and said she planned to file a grievance with the state bar over his behavior.
Channel 2's Tom Jones was in court when it happened, and with us live in Clayton County. Tom, the attorney's really upset about this.
That's right, Justin. Matt Tucker is very upset because that tongue lashing was on national television. And also, he says, because he was in the hospital recovering from that stroke and had let the court here know he had a medical emergency.
You need to seriously seek new counsel.
I was astonished. I couldn't believe it.
He's doing you a disservice because you've been here.
She kind of made me look real bad on TV.
It was the tongue lashing heard around the country.
I am going to find that Mr. Tucker is in contempt of court.
Judge Shanna Rooks Malone lit into defense attorney Matt Tucker after he didn't show up for jury selection in the murder trial of his client, Hannah Payne. She's accused of murdering 62-year-old Kenneth Herring back in 2019. Police say Herring hit a car and left the scene, and say Payne tried to make a citizen's arrest and shot him.
We're ready to start the trial today.
Payne told the judge Tucker suffered a stroke Saturday and was in the hospital. The judge said he never contacted her office.
I am going to also file a grievance with the State Bar of Georgia because of his behavior.
This was shocking. And
Tucker told me from his hospital bed his office emailed the court to let staff know he had a medical emergency Saturday. He doesn't understand why the judge refused to accept his client's word.
I've never lied to the court. I'm an officer of the court.
Tucker didn't like the judge airing his medical condition on TV and telling Payne Tucker was a disservice to her.
It is not a disservice. We've been waiting for this trial for 3 years.
And Tucker says he and his client are concerned they may not get a fair trial. He says he may have to file a motion to get the judge removed from this case. Meanwhile, there's no word when this trial will.
All right, so y'all just heard that audio right here, and I just found a better picture of Matthew Tucker, who is the attorney for Hannah Payne. Now, you can see right here, clearly he's in a hospital bed. He has a gown on. He's wearing a mask. He looks like he's hooked up to something. So he definitely was not faking the funk when he said he had a stroke. So I'm glad that that wasn't the case, because one thing you do not want to do is go around claiming you got illnesses and ailments and disabilities when you don't have them, in order to try to get out of something. I can see why the judge was upset, because they said that they dealt with something like this before when it came to Matthew Tucker. Probably nothing this extreme, but because of, past behavior. However, this time it looks like he was indeed telling the truth. That's why they say whenever something happens to you, you don't want to lie about whatever it is that allegedly happened, because if it happens in real life, no one's going to believe you, which is probably what this judge was feeling at this time. Now, this is the part where it gets really, really iffy with me. because yes, we know that this guy has said some things in the past that's probably tried to get out of something, but this time he was actually telling the truth. Now, according to him, his people sent an email, maybe a couple of them, to the judge informing her that he was not going to be able to show up for the trial that day because he had suffered a stroke over the weekend, and the trial was set to start literally that following week. And of course, you know, if you have a stroke, it takes a little time to recover from that, because it's not like you got a cold where you could just take some medicine and you'll be good within the next couple of days. Like, this guy suffered a medical emergency that, if major enough, could have hindered his way of life, or at worst could have taken him out. Now you're stuck with a person who has no client, and now you're going to have to really go out and seek new counsel. So, you know, you have all of that right there. And then, you know, you have the judge. Well, let me fast forward a little bit. This is her right here. This is Judge Shanna Rooks Malone. She was the one that pretty much said what she said. Now, one thing I really didn't agree with her on was actually berating this guy on national television. Like, literally, like, berating him in the courtroom. And now this is made it to national television, because now a lot of people are going to come at her neck, especially after this new development that has come through with this story in and of itself. Of, you know, they said they sent you an email. Why didn't you check it? Or why didn't your people check it? Or whoever has access to their emails, why didn't they say anything when it comes to the conditions medical wise of Hannah Payne's client, seeing as how, not client, attorney, seeing as how this is a major case right here that you don't want to fumble. One thing I wish that they could have is, you know, other attorneys there that maybe could be there to be close to the main attorney. And I'm sure they probably do. I'm just kind of talking as an amateur for those of you who are going to try to come for me when I say certain things. Listen, I don't know it all, but I wish they had like another attorney there, like, again, which I said they probably do, that could soak up all the information about the trial. That way they could be there in place of the main attorney, so they can get this thing moving. Because if I was the family member of Kenneth Herring, this would annoy me to have to constantly have to go year after year, delay after delay. And it's like, it's not going anywhere. It's not moving. And finally, when it's starting to seem like it's starting to grow legs to move forward, this kind of stuff ends up happening. At the end of the day, it's going to look bad more so on her part, because people are going to naturally say, oh, so you mean to tell me she couldn't check her email? Or people couldn't have told her that she got an email? Because I hope that the people who are working with Matthew Tucker emailed her multiple emails. You know, don't just send just one when it comes to something like this. Send multiple ones, because, you know, if it's an emergency, you send them in repetition in hopes that you see it. And they're going to, like I said, they're going to come for her and say, well, why didn't you check your email? Like, it was right there. And now we're in this situation again. Now, what I will say is this. When she told Hannah Payne that she's going to have to seek new counsel, she definitely is, but not because of the incompetence so much of her current attorney, but because he's going to have to recover. Like I said before, you don't just walk back into your job after having a stroke, whether it's mini or major. Even if it's mini, if it's major, you definitely might not even be walking back in there at all. But even if it's a minor stroke, you won't be walking right back in there like you were prior to you having that medical emergency. You have to slowly recover from that. And it takes days, maybe even weeks for that to even happen. Most likely weeks. So I agree with the judge when she said she's going to have to seek new counsel, because he's pretty much out for the count for right now. There's nothing he can really do. So that's why I said I wish they had like a backup counsel that knew all the information about the case. That way, can just insert that person there and get this thing moving. Because again, this case has been delayed for too long, and it needs to start moving along so we can get this heifer locked up, convicted, give her her sentence, throw her behind the wall, and just be done with it, move on to the next case. That's just my take on it, but I'm curious to hear from y'all. What do y'all think should have happened in this situation when it comes to both Matthew Tucker, Hannah Payne's attorney, and Judge Shanna Rooks Malone, in how she handled the situation? Or did she not handle the situation the correct way? Because many are saying she was dead wrong for how she did it. So I'm leaving that one up to y'all.